Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. Pakistan military says the security forces have broken the backbone of terrorists and helped improve the country's security situation. During a press briefing, DG ISPR Major General Babar Iftikhar said the last decade was full of challenges when foreign elements tried to destabilize Pakistan. He said India has intensified attacks on civilian population along the line of control, committing over 3,000 ceasefire violations last year. Iftikhar said due to Pakistan's efforts, various world organizations exposed India's terror financing and fake propaganda against Islamabad. India's top court has criticized the government for failing to break a deadlock with farmers protesting against new farm laws. During the hearing, Chief Justice Sharad Arvind Bobde said the drawn-out confrontation is causing distress to farmers. Thousands of farmers have been protesting on the outskirts of the capital, New Delhi, for more than a month. The Afghan military says it has killed 17 Taliban fighters while removing their checkpost on Baghlan-Balkh highway. The military accused the Taliban of extorting people on the highway. Meanwhile, the Taliban say 4 soldiers were killed in an attack on their checkpoint in the Balkh province. The U.S. House of Representatives has decided to impeach President Donald Trump, calling him a threat to democracy. The Democrat-led House plans to introduce a charge of incitement of insurrection over Capitol Hill riots. Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the House will call on Vice President Mike Pence today to wrest the powers of the presidency from Trump. The global number of coronavirus has surpassed 90 million with more than 1.93 million deaths. Meanwhile, Japan has discovered a new variant of the new coronavirus in people arriving from Brazil. China has reported 85 new locally transmitted cases of COVID-19, its biggest daily increase in more than 5 months. In Pakistan, over 1,800 cases and 32 fatalities were recorded overnight that pushed the death toll to 10,676. And in tennis, 8-seeded Frances Tiafoe beats fellow American Bjorn Fratangelo 6-4, 3-6, 6-1 in the second round of Delray Beach Open. Tiafoe will now face the winner of the late match pitting British Cameron Norrie and third-seeded French Adrian Manarino. In another contest, fourth-seeded Polish Hubert Hurkacz comfortably downs Colombia's Daniel Elahi Galan 6-2, 6-2. Well, these were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back, and now the news in detail. The Pakistan Army says India is trying to destabilize the country through promoting terrorism. At a press briefing, DG ISPR Major General Babar Iftikhar said the EU Disinfo Lab has exposed New Delhi's planned propaganda against Pakistan. He said India has been peddling anti-Pakistan social media campaign for the last 15 years to malign its image. He added that India has intensified attacks on the civilian population along the line of control. Major General Iftikhar said India has committed over 3,000 ceasefire violations last year. He went on to say India has been committing gross human rights violations in occupied Kashmir. Responding to a question, he said the security situation in Balochistan has significantly improved due to efforts by law enforcement agencies. The military spokesperson says security forces have broken the backbone of terrorists. He also said the army will ensure the safety of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Let's go to our correspondent Sumaira Khan for more details on this. Sumaira, today's press conference by the Director General of Inter-Services Public Relations comes at a point when India has exacerbated its subversive activities in Pakistan. What is the significance of this press briefing?
Here, this was highly significant press briefing, and it comes at a point where Pakistan did not just share a very powerful dossier regarding Indian malicious activities in Pakistan, but it also it was coincidentally it was cushioned by the EU Disinfo Lab report as well. And as we just as we just entered into another decade, the main agenda of the press conference was to apprise the national and international media regarding Pakistan's activities, how Pakistan secured its borders, and not just Pakistan did not just secure its own borders, but it also helped eliminating terrorism wherever it was needed, wherever its intelligence real-time sharing was needed globally. So there was a huge data, and DG ISPR he spoke on many significant points regarding India. I'll start with India. DG ISPR said that Indian activities were not just confined to eastern border, but they were but both the borders, eastern and western borders, where India first it tried to pressurize Pakistan through some kinetic measures, as it did through a failed attempt back in 2019, February 2019, and when Pakistan responded to that failed attempt in the shape of Operation Swift Retort in the broad daylight. So DG ISPR basically he wanted to draw international community's attention towards all these malicious activities that were being cushioned, supported, and financed by Indian intelligence agency, RAW on the top. And he gave a reference of that dossier as well that were presented in the last month of 2020. And he also apprised the media personnel that that a stern follow-up is being carried by Pakistan's authority on all international platforms, and all the stakeholders, all the powers in the global in the global field, and all the concerned countries, they have been delivered that dossier as well through Pakistan's Foreign Affairs Ministry. And there is not just delivering, or not just it's not a matter of just if we sum it up, then it's not just delivering that dossier. He assured that Pakistan is keeping tracks, and Pakistan is keeping record of all the follow-up activities as well. So our diplomats and our missions abroad are there. They are very well aware of all the propaganda machinery that is super active through Indian finances right now. He also mentioned dossier that I just shared details with you, and he also went on saying that Pakistan waged a successful war against terrorism in that period, and the period is obviously last decade. He shared numbers as well. He said where we sacrificed 83,000 lives of Pakistani civilians and uniformed personnel. Pakistan also sustained $126 billion in economic losses, and we are still collecting all the concerned data as well. And he said more than 1,100 Al-Qaeda terrorists were captured or killed with the help of Pakistan's real-time credible.
Sumaira, what were other key points of the press conference?
Here, other key points of the press conference include details on Operation Radul Fasad. They include ceasefire violations along the line of control, and in those details, DG ISPR informed the media personnel that yes, there are huge losses on Indian side as well that they are not sharing with their media, but we know that we have to respond to that those provocative incidents on the line of control. He then shared details of Operation Radul Fasad, and among those details, he said under Operation Radul Fasad, authorities conducted more than 370,000 intelligence-based operations and during the last 3 years, and out of which 50 intelligence operations were deemed as major operations. After Operation Radul Fasad, he said major terrorist incidents had declined by 86% in 2020, which is the most significant decline in terrorist activities in Pakistan. That was on peak once in 2013, and now they have been lowered by 45% as compared to the preceding years. He also said that Karachi, that was once considered on a crime index once, and it was grabbing sixth number on crime index worldwide, but now it has gone down to 106th number globally, which is again a significant achievement of Pakistan's law enforcement agencies. They rooted out all they rooted out majority of sleeping cells, and now sleeper cells of that were being funded by once again Indian intelligence agency RAW, and they have proof in that dossier as well. And most of the significant Pakistan's victory is that Pakistan is standing stable right now, and it can claim that there is no organized militant and terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan.
All right.
Thank you,
Sumaira, for your input. And for more on this, we are joined by defense analyst Brigadier Nader Mir, retired. Sir, thank you for joining us. Sir, Pakistan's military has reiterated that India is involved in promoting anti-Pakistan agenda by abetting terrorism, fomenting chaos and targeting economy. How will you explain this?
Today, the DG ISPR, General Babar, was very succinct, clear and brief, that is, in explaining how India is going about waging all facets of war against Pakistan, inclusive of what you've just said. I, Brigadier Nader Mir, as chairman of Pakistan National Reform Movement, that is PNRM, have been saying for the last few years that India is waging an undeclared war against Pakistan. And Pakistan, despite all its endeavors for peace and stability in these regions, its efforts for Afghan peace has found India to be the spoiler in Afghanistan, and on the eastern front or eastern border of Pakistan, frontier of Pakistan, despite all Pakistani efforts of last 2 decades for peace, which the Indians took as appeasement, the Indians have been answering Pakistan with their various forms of warfare, hybrid, asymmetrical, fifth generation, media, you name it, and it's part of their campaign at the global level, at the regional level, and fomenting terrorism in Pakistan and supporting all kinds of dissidents and creating all kind of mayhem and consternation in Pakistan. That's the Indian agenda. So this Indian policy is clear. The policy is anti-Pakistan. It's a policy of confronting Pakistan in the various forms. So question is, what is Pakistan going to do about it now? I say, as chairman of Pakistan National Reform Movement, that it is high time that we answer the Indians in the same coin. In fact, more than that, our response should be disproportionate so that this comes to an end and peace can prevail in this part of the world. And peace will not prevail till we answer the Indians in the language that they understand. So Pakistan needs to review its policy, and Pakistan National Reform Movement has been saying India is the enemy and Kashmir is Pakistan. And we have not said that out of malice or prejudice or any kind of chauvinism or any kind of extremist agenda in our views. We have no extremist agenda. We Pakistanis are a peace-loving nation, but peace cannot be obtained or cannot be had if the enemy is implacable like the Indians are. So we have to answer the Indians in the same coin and more than that. And we have the capability, and we should do it as a policy.
Sir, Major General Babar Iftikhar said Pakistan is being subjected to the 5th generation warfare. Can you please elaborate this?
The point is that warfare has gone into many generations, and the generation that you're talking now, the 5th generation, or you can name it something else also, has many facets. It has numerous faces and it has numerous angles to it. So it's not only warfare that is between 2 armies or 2 militaries or 2 political camps. It's one which is involving various domains, which includes political, economic, social, cultural, linguistic, and so many others, and not just nationally at the Pakistan level, at the regional level, at the global level. The point to understand is that basically the war that India is waging, fifth generation, we call it, and we can give it other names also, hybrid and asymmetrical, which are overlapping and having many things in common. But the main theme is that the policy that the Indians are adopting against Pakistan is a policy which is called confrontation. That means war in various forms, which is what they are doing against Pakistan. So Pakistan is left with no choice but to answer the Indians. And we have the capability, we have the national will and resolve. Our people are brave, the Pakistani nation is resilient. We have very brave armed forces and professional soldiers who have been giving sacrifices against some larger adversary, which is India, and who are ready prepared today to wage all kinds of war.
Sir, the EU Disinfo Lab has exposed Indian network working to malign Pakistan by influencing decision makers at the EU and UN, but there has been no firm response by the international community. What's your say on this?
Well, the reason is that the Indians have been doing this for a long time. It's not only like the point of this EU Disinformation Lab and all the Indian endeavors at EU level, and this have been raised, but it's not just EU where they're doing it. They have been doing it in BRICS. They've been telling the Russians against us. They've even tried to get the Chinese, our friends, away from us. They've even tried it in the Gulf. See the relations that Pakistan had in the West Asia or in the Saudi Gulf, GCC, and the relations we have today. And wherever you will find the Indian hand in it, which has tried its best to drive a wedge or to carry out propaganda or do fifth generation war or any other form of name that you want to give it against Pakistan. So the Indian effort against Pakistan is not limited to this region or to any other region of the world, is basically what I say as chairman of Pakistan National Reform Movement. It's a global effort. They are waging a total global war against Pakistan in this context. And that's why I keep saying that we need a policy so that we can answer them accordingly.
Thank you, Brigadier Nader Mir, for talking to Indus News. And now it's time to take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Afghan military says it has killed 17 Taliban fighters while removing their checkpost on Baghlan Balkh highway. The military accused the Taliban of extorting people on the highway. It said the commander forces took part in the operation and they will continue their efforts to block such attempts. The defense ministry said it has also killed dozens of Taliban fighters in an air raid strike in the Farah province. The ministry said the air raid was carried out during retaliatory attacks in the Push-Through district. Meanwhile, the Taliban say 4 soldiers were killed in an attack on their checkpoint in the Balkh province. Karim Khalili, leader of Afghanistan Hizb-e-Wahdat-e-Islami, has arrived in Pakistan on a third-day visit. Khalili will call on Prime Minister Imran Khan, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi and other dignitaries. Pakistan's Foreign Office says the visit is part of its policy to reach out to the Afghan political leadership to forge common understanding on the peace process. The visit coincides with the second round of the intra-Afghan talks between Kabul and the Taliban in Doha. The two sides are negotiating on the core agenda of the talks after agreeing on the mechanism and terms in round 1. India's top court has criticized the government for failing to break a deadlock with farmers. During the hearing, Chief Justice Sharad Arvind Bopte said the confrontation is causing distress to farmers. He asked the government to put on hold the implementation of the contentious laws or else the court would do so. Since late November, thousands of farmers have been protesting at the Delhi borders against the laws that say favor big corporates. Over 80 farmers have died during the protest. In Nepal, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli says he will not rest until he retrieves Nepalese territories from India. This comes days before Nepali foreign ministers visit to India amid strained bilateral ties. Kumar Gyawali will call on his Indian counterpart to resolve the long-term boundary dispute with talks. Prime Minister Oli said Gyawali will discuss the issue of the map that Kathmandu published last year. He said according to the Sogali Treaty, Kalapani, Limpi Pyadura and Lipulek belong to Nepal. The release of the map led to opposition from India, with the Ministry of External Affairs criticizing the move. Yemen's Houthi rebels say they reserve the right to respond to any U.S. move to blacklist them. The statement comes after the Trump administration announced its intent to designate the group as a terrorist organization. In a tweet, spokesperson Mohammed Ali al-Houthi alleged the U.S. policies are a source of terrorism. Earlier, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the U.S. will designate the Houthi group as terrorist organization on January 19th. Pompeo said he also wanted to designate 3 Ansar Allah leaders as global terrorists. He said the move will confront Ansar Allah's terrorist activities in Yemen. Earlier, 8 groups expressed concerns that the move can complicate efforts to combat the world's largest humanitarian crisis. The global number of coronavirus has surpassed 90 million, with more than 1.93 million deaths. More on the latest developments regarding COVID-19 around the world in this report.
The optimism fueled by COVID-19 vaccines is dampened as the world witnesses an unprecedented surge in deaths and cases, while new variants of the virus causes worries. Japan has found coronavirus variant in people arriving from Brazil, which is different from the ones in Britain and South Africa. Meanwhile, French authorities are racing to contain the more infectious variant of COVID-19 first found in Britain after detecting it in the ports of Marseille and in the Alps. Mexico and Russia have also confirmed the new strain of the virus first detected in Britain. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the worsening state of global spread and new strands call for a more strengthened global health response.
While the need for international cooperation continues, we must expand our idea of what that means. In our interconnected world, we need a networked multilateralism so that global and regional organizations communicate and work together towards common goals.
Meanwhile, Indonesia has extended its ban on foreign arrivals for another 14 days in a bid to control the transmission of the coronavirus. Spain, too, is mulling new restrictions after it recorded its biggest one-day jump in coronavirus cases since October. Meanwhile, the U.S. and Britain opened mass vaccination centers to boost immunization drive and deliver shots to all people.
We're 1A currently. However, Governor Cuomo just expanded the criteria to 1B, which will expand beyond healthcare providers starting this week. And we're excited and ready to provide vaccine to that group as well.
Over in Asia, mainland China has reported 85 new locally transmitted cases of COVID-19, its biggest daily increase in more than 5 months.
Now moving on to Pakistan, 32 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This takes the country's death toll to 10,676. Health officials reported 1,877 new infections overnight. There are currently more than 35,000 active cases in the country. The health ministry says out of over 504,000 countrywide cases, more than 458,000 people have recovered. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has started registering frontline healthcare workers who will receive the first doses of the vaccine. All staff of hospitals dealing with virus patients and healthcare workers appointed to inject vaccines will be immunized as a priority. And now it's time to take a short break. Stay with us. Now moving on to the business stories, European stocks are trading just under the flat line as coronavirus weighs on investor sentiment. Frankfurt DAX is leading the losses, tipping over 0.5%. The Pan-European Stock 600 has also slipped, with utilities and travel stocks dropping. London's FTSE and Italy's FTSE MIB declined marginally, while the CAC 40 in Paris too edged down. Earlier, Asian stocks traded mixed, with mainland Chinese, Hong Kong and Australian shares declining, while Japanese stocks and Seoul's Kospi gained. Now it's time to have a look at the weather update across the globe. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.